Yo, this is Dane Thomas. Stay tuned for the Love is a Virus podcast. And we're on. What's up, Laurie Handlers? Thank you for doing this.
Yay, Dane Thomas. I'm thrilled to be with you. You're one of my favorite people. You're like a celebrity of mine. You are.
That's very sweet. At least maybe like an F grade celebrity, you know, however that works. But since it's funny, we were just talking before we pressed the on button about where this might go, and we sort of agreed to just throw it into the mystery and see what subjects come out. But I was just going to say, you know, I'm a little less keen to be thinking about being a celebrity after all these. Have you seen all this crazy sex ritual stuff coming out from Hollywood and all that sort of stuff?
Well, actually, maybe there's a series that's starting on Friday, which it's your Friday. I think it's my Thursday. There's a series coming out about people in something where they can't touch each other. And I looked at that on Netflix and I said, that's interesting. I wonder what that's going to be about. And it turns out someone I know is in it. And he texted me and he said, I'm in this Netflix series. It starts on Friday. And I went, congratulations. I'll look at it. You know, it's something, his name is David Presence. You might know him. Yeah, but he's in it. And I said to him, David, whatever, you know, great. But Hollywood is following us for sure. They're trying to capitalize. I've been trying to get a film. I mean, I've produced and starred in 3 films already, but I've been trying to make a film about boundaries and about safer sex and stopping privileged athletes from having sex with roofied co-eds. I've been making stuff like that for a while and trying to push it out there, and no one wants to touch it. It's like, it's way too controversial, and there's too much money in things like the Super Bowl and whatever, so I can't even go there. So whatever, we'll see what Hollywood comes out with.
So this thing I watched the other night, which, you know, I've developed a sort of a habit of avoiding anything too conspiracy feeling. And then I sort of felt lately to actually reverse my policy and just kind of open up and just have a couple of samples of the things that are going around and just to move it through my body and not be reactive to it, you know? So I'm not like, oh no, I can't watch that, you know, because that's almost a fear in itself. It's almost like giving into the fear of fear, you know? And I watched the documentary Out of Shadows, which basically is about child sex trafficking in Hollywood and like satanic rituals and sex rituals with children and all that stuff, you know? And it's dark, you know, and it doesn't feel very conspiracy. It doesn't feel like these are crazy people putting this out. This feels like, this is pretty measured, you know, like I didn't have too much problems accepting the possibilities of a lot of what I was watching, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't, yeah. So it's interesting because I think that thing's going to pop, you know, I think there's going to be another Me Too is what it looks like, but it's going to be more like a darker still kind of revealing, you know?
Really. As long as we're dealing with the dark and everybody's in isolation, let's just open up all the dirty laundry and maybe we'll come out really with something better. You know, I don't know, but that's intense. I just watched one episode of something you told me to watch. I don't know, 6 months ago at least, something about altered carbon.
Carbon, yeah.
I watched one episode and I was like, oh God. But my partner Michael told me that it gets better. Like, you know, he said, yeah, it's got violence and everything, but it gets better, Laurie. So I'm gonna.
It gets real good. Maybe I'll give a bit of context of who Laurie is to me anyway. So this series we're doing, Laurie, it's called Love is a Virus, and the first 12 people are all people that I'm pretty much, I would say, friends with, colleagues with, whatever, that I respect, that have some sort of expertise or unique position or something interesting, usually in multiple fields, that I think is worth sharing with my audience. And when we only met, a couple of years ago, but we've known of each other for longer. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But
And
we saw each other in Australia, and we may have seen each other, like, I don't know, somewhere else. But Australia, I was looking forward to meeting you. So we
yeah,
knew each other, and I was like, oh, good. I'm gonna meet Dane at
yeah.
this thing. Yeah.
So so I know Laurie as an ISTA lead, as a sex educator, but what also fascinated me was your interest in sort of anti-aging and beyond death stuff. And then there's a bit of sex magic stuff in there. So you have quite a few expertises that I'm very interested in. Um, and without sort of setting an agenda, I thought we, you know, like we said, we'll throw it open to the mystery, but just sort of frame out that that's, you know, I've been tracking you for quite a while and think you're holding a really unique and powerful point in the world. So I figured it'd be great to get you on here and chat about things. And, you know, I don't know, people are listening to this down the track and the corona thing is gone by now, or maybe it laid waste to the human race and there's only 10,000 of us left, or we evolved to another species, whatever. But I felt it's good to have a chat with you about all this, some of these things while we're in this interesting time as well,
Yeah.
because you've got some cool perspectives.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
I can tell you that when I heard, I can just tell you that when I heard about, I'm into you would call what I'm into radical life extension. It's not anti-aging
nice.
really. It's radical life extension. Some people call it super longevity. And, there's a lot of arguments about it. There's conspiracy theory about it. There's people who say, well, if you live longer, there's going to be too much population. And there's other people who say, well, there's only rich people who are going to be able to afford which is kind of what the altered carbon is about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when this virus came out, I'm in the category of people that would be the most affected by it. I don't have lung disease or, I smoked when I was much younger, but I'm like over 60. And so being over 60 put me in a category of people who were at risk, high risk. And many of my friends I have friends of every age, but many of my friends close by in Arizona are also older. And I just said, that's not going to happen to me. I do this regimen of immune boosting every single day. And I spend my discretionary money on supplements where other people would buy a new car. I would have a cabinet filled with pills. Or they get a new TV. No, you should see my cabinet filled with pills. And people go, when I'm at ISTAs, they look at the bag that I bring. I have one in the morning, I have one in the middle of the day, and I have one in the night with all this stuff that I take. And I'm happy to discuss any of it, but I've been into it now for 12 years. So it's not something that's just a fad for me. It isn't something I just found a supplement and I go, oh, this is the secret of life, or this is the fountain of youth. I am like that. My energy has always been the way it is, even now. And I just said, why would I want to go anywhere? I love life. I love my life. I'm not into, someone told me when I first got into this, I was at I was at an ISTA conference in San Diego, and someone said, why would I was talking about sex magic and prolonging your life. And she said, well, I want to have the big orgasm, the big O with God. And I said to her, well, have it now. What are you waiting for? You think that could only take place at the moment of death? Like, I'm not going there with you. I'm not signing up for that. I said, you could have that now. So anyway, I'm into it. Most of my really close friends are into it. Some of them think I'm crazy, but they always thought I was crazy for something. So who cares? Yeah. So I'm happy to discuss that. I'm happy to discuss supplements. I'm happy to discuss sex magic because I think sex magic is more powerful than anything that I actually take.
Let's do sex magic. Like it's something I've got a pretty solid background in as well. Probably maybe from some different angles too. Like I got into kind of chaos magic and sigil magic, and ejaculating on symbols and that kind of stuff when I was a teenager, and into kind of Taoist practice and cultivation and that stuff since then. And, you know, when I was 17, I told my mum, I'm not going to ejaculate anymore. I'm going to become an enlightened being. You know, I'm going to become like a Taoist immortal or whatever. So I've got some good grounding in that too, but I'm sure you know some different stuff or have a different angle. But, you know, it was interesting because I watched this stuff about the, you know, Hollywood pedophile, sex, ritual, cannibalistic, fucking crazy stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And it sort of struck me as like, oh, like they're doing what we're doing just in a really fucked up way, you know? And like and this idea of like taking life force from someone else, which is, you know, is I'm like, oh, don't these people know that you can do this with like other consenting adults and your own life force and make magic happen? What's the deal, you know? But yeah, I'd love to hear, like, when did you first come across the idea of sex magic, and what does that mean to you?
It's great. You know, I know where they get that idea from, the people in Hollywood. They take something like a yab yum, a picture of a yab yum. I don't have one like handy. I'm looking around my office and see what, it's all in my tantra room. I have loads of yab yums, but yab yum is a picture of a Buddha with a consort in his lap. And that's really the joke. The cosmic joke of that is that it's not really two people. It's the inner space of us. We all have masculine and feminine within. It's not two separate individuals. But the way that was depicted to me at first was there was a Buddha sucking the energy of a concubine from her, and therefore he was getting, and it was always a he was getting life force from that young woman or whatever. So I just want to say that is such a distortion. I'm just saying it flat out. It's a distortion for everything that I know at this moment. That is just like, that's one of those temple mysteries that when you find out what it looks like to the naked eye of the commoner, and then you find out that that's not at all what it's depicting. It's depicting our inner territory. Then you get, oh, why would I suck the life force out of somebody else? Anyway, so how I first heard about it was I was at an ISTA conference. This was before I was an ISTA facilitator, before I was an ISTA lead, was when I would come to the conferences and talk, but I would say no to being on faculty. I was in a different space. So I was moderating a panel on teenage sex. And there was a man in the audience who just kept knowing a lot. Like, and he had teenagers and he kept raising his hand and and at the end, as the moderator, I just said, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. So I told everyone from the audience who had anything they really needed to say to come up and get on the microphone and be part of the taped part. And I asked this man to come up as part of it. And then afterwards I said to him, who are you? Like, what do you know, how do you know what you know? Like, you seem to know a lot. Who the hell are you? And he said, my name is Stuart Mark Berlin. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, I have a book called Tantric Kabbalah, Sex Magic. And he said, I have another book called Every Woman a Goddess, Every Man a Hero in Her Service. And I went like, well, okay. I said, well, I'm Laurie Handlers. Why don't we trade books? So we traded books. I gave him a copy of Sex and Happiness, and he gave me a copy of Every Woman a Goddess. And I read the book, and I just went, okay, I got to get this guy on my podcast. So I got him on my podcast 2 times. We talked about the Every Woman a Goddess, Every Man in Her Service, and then Tantric Kabbalah, Sex Magic. And we actually seduced each other on air. So he came. He lives in LA. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. He came to visit me, and we taught each other a bunch of stuff. We spent, I think he came to visit me like 5 times. And when he came to visit me, we had love for each other, but we weren't meant to be an item, but we could really, squeeze the juice out of each other. And so we, like it was great. So we taught each other everything we know. So I taught him how I have certain ways of being pre-orgasm, during orgasm, whatever. And he taught me his way, which is pretty much what I teach now. This is for heterosexual, but anyone can be. The person being in the female role is the altar at which the other person prays.
Mm.
So we set intention way before. We might set an incantation or a chant. I'm not too woo-woo. People who know me know that I'm not like way out in the woo. I'm definitely like grounded, like, okay, what are we saying? And if the chant was something I couldn't understand or whatever, or something I didn't like, I would just go, no, I don't want that. But we would make an intention, and then, my body would become like the place building to orgasm, where when I was coming into orgasm, we would both say the intention, and our goal, or our meta intention, was to connect this orgasm to every orgasm that's ever been and ever will be, all orgasms in the universe. Because, and let me backtrack now for anybody who's hearing this and goes like, she says she's not woo, what is she, nuts? Sexual energy is the energy of creation. That's how you got here. That's how I got here. And anybody listening, that's how you got here. Somebody's penis went into somebody's vagina as a sperm impregnated a zygote, and a being was created. And the chances of that happening are like 1,000,000 to 1. Like there's so many sperm that just swim around and never impregnate. There's so many possible humans that could be, but doesn't happen. Only a very small percentage of what happens in sex arises as a human. So the notion of sex magic is that humans, the only species that we know of right now, are the only ones who can take that same creative energy, that life force, and make other stuff. Dolphins don't create computers. Jellyfish don't make cell phones. Nothing else has a frontal cortex that could take that creative life force and make it into, this or the thing we're talking on. Nothing. So you take the creative life force and you intend it to materialize a creation. And that's basically it. But the way Stuart and I used it, it wasn't in coitus. It wasn't in intercourse. It was like, take the woman's body, or take the body that's willing to surrender, and build that really slowly until there's such an explosion, and connect that explosion with intention, like little sperms going out there into the universe. Take that and create something from that. And to me, that's the piece that they left out of the book and the movie, The Law of Attraction. They gave you everything but the hot part, which is really how we attract and manifest that which you want. They left that all out. So that to me is sex magic. It's really, what do I want? Am I willing to surrender my body and my sexual energy to it? And would I be willing to keep that present at the time when what the French call le petit mort happens, like the little death happens, all the molecules let go. So that's it in a nutshell. Now, how you do that, and how you prepare for that, and whatever, is a whole ritual in itself. But that's my form of sex magic. But I love all the things that you said, ejaculating on symbols, and telling your mother at 17 you weren't going to ejaculate anymore. And I wonder what she thought of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I put out, anyone following me, there's a book I put out called Secrets of the Sex Wizard, which is just some super simple ejaculation mastery for men. So it takes a lot of lot of the woo out of it as well. Which it's interesting, this place of woo or not woo, you know, like I feel like we're probably in a similar position of, you know, when I'm in kind of business or science community, then I'm kind of crazy out there spiritual person. But when I'm in maybe the shamanic or the tantric or the whatever, it's like, oh, Dane's really like, I think he's a capitalist. You know, it's like this kind of like, you know, a bit like 1 foot in the mainstream world and 1 foot in the shamanic world or the magical world or whatever, you know. And I think this is where I like to play, you know. I like the marriage of both, and even what I think Tantra has represented to me and all the other paths that I'm interested in is the marriage of opposite paths, is the marriage of polarities, you know. And so for me, I've found, like, you know, I like making money and selling stuff on the internet, and I like, I don't know, Netflix and lots of things that are very normal, you know. But I also like being freed from conditioning and journeying through magical experiences and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think I picked up on you as someone who's also, you know, navigating a few different worlds, which often don't really understand each other very well.
They don't, and they make the other wrong. They make, like, they say, okay, I don't understand that, so that's wrong. You're right. Listen, I'm just like that. I have 1 foot firmly planted in each camp. I can hang with the woo to a certain extent, and my eyeballs roll back in my head. And then I can hang with business to a certain extent until, like, it resembles total exploitation. I can't, like, at least what I put my business efforts to. I mean, look, Dane, I've been at this for 22 years. I've been teaching Tantra for 22 years. There's a few people who've been teaching it longer than me, not too many. When I came in, I was like the second rung. There was Charles Muir, Margot Anand, Barry Long. That's it. I mean, there are just a few people that were in it, and I came into it, and people said to me that thing, you know, why are you charging for this? This is like a spiritual practice. And I said, I'm not a Catholic nun. Like, look at me. I'm not wearing the thing, you know, the habit. I didn't take the vow of poverty, and I'm not gonna. So, yeah, so I understand. I love business. To me, I always thought, I really did think this. I'm not as naive now, but I really thought that progressive business would heal the planet sooner than woo-woo spirituality, because I felt like with a profit motive, business people would just get it done faster.
Yeah.
You know, and I see that Bill Gates is actually trying to do that right now, but I feel like, you know, I'm not, if the United States says we have to get vaccinated, I'm leaving, and I'm going to go somewhere where there's payola or bakshish or whatever, where I can, like, you know, go under the radar. I don't want to get that. I don't want to get the 5G chip
certificate without having to do the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but I do feel like I believed for a long time that if I worked with businesses and I consulted to them, and I did, and I consulted to the government, I felt like if I raised the awareness there. I mean, I once consulted to Raytheon. You know, Raytheon made these, I forgot what they were called. I want to say the word pilgrim, but it's not pilgrim. But anyway, they made these bombs, and they did, you know, I went inside the doors of Raytheon. I remember someone had to escort me to go to the bathroom. You know, like, I wasn't allowed to look right or left because everything was top secret there. But I felt like if I raised the consciousness of the people that worked there, there would, some good would come out of that. So you know, maybe I was very naive, but I still believe that there's a marriage of both that has to take place.
Yeah. I mean, I see the same thing, and I spent a lot of time trying to equip the tantrics and the yogis and the whoever's with effective skills at getting shit done. You know, that's a big part, because I see, like, a lot of beautiful people that I've share their worldview and resonate with their hearts, I'm like, oh, you guys are fucking useless. And it's not so true. It's not so true. I'm seeing a huge, especially new waves of people who are not maybe hamstrung by spiritual beliefs, who are out there to get shit done, and they're really, animated in their message, and they're less fearful of business or any of that stuff. But I feel like the two sides have been, wanting to equip those guys with what they need to kind of land on the planet and get shit done, and then wanting to infiltrate and just activate the consciousness more of the people who already know how to get shit done, but they're maybe less listening to any higher calling. And I'm seeing more of that. I see more in the innovative end of business. I see a lot of people that are really waking up, I think, as well. But it's all mixed together, right? Like, that's the interesting thing of, like, the good and the bad, so to speak, are very intertwined. And it's a place I'm into.
I just want to mention something here. One of my greatest things that happened this year, actually in late 2019, was one of my people from the radical life extension world came to ISTA 1 in the end of the year 2019, and then came to ISTA 2 in late January 2020. And I said to him, "You are my great hope. You're the only other person that I know who's as dedicated to radical life extension as I am. You just came and, like, here's what I want you to consider." I said to him, "Pleasure is medicine. So you have all these scientists and medical doctors and everything at your conferences, and I'm asking you to put me on stage to talk about how pleasure is also medicine. Oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, endorphins also heal the body in a way that no shot and no, whatever." And so he's considering that. So I'm trying to get my science world, together with my woo world, which isn't so woo. It's those chemicals. That's chemistry.
You think there's a big challenge around sexuality for those guys, for the more scientifically oriented and the more let's call them the techno focused? Do you think there's a big fear of sexuality for those guys on some level?
No, I don't. I actually don't think there's a fear from them. I think there's a fear from investors. There's a fear from conservative investors who want to invest in their companies. I don't think there's a fear at all. If you take Aubrey de Grey, who's like been one of the leading people in the movement of super longevity, he's science all the way, and there's nothing about him that's afraid of sex. He full on set in a movie. There was a movie called The Immortals, starring Aubrey de Grey and Bill Andrews, two of my favorite scientists. And you can find it, I think, on Netflix. The Immortals. Aubrey de Grey like has sex in the film. He doesn't care, and he owns. He's the head honcho at SENS Institute, which is outside of the Bay Area. He's a British guy, but he lives in the Bay Area, and SENS Institute is one of the leading things in the leading companies in research on radical life extension. So no, I don't think the scientists have a problem at all. They love me. All these guys that I know love me, and I love them. They love to hear me speak. I think it's just that they get afraid of where the money's coming from.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a political statement right there. Yeah.
Let's talk about what the fuck is going on right now, do you think? Just throw it all open, What's the Laurie Handlers take on what's going on?
I sure as shit don't know. At first, no, I just don't know. I am living in one of my practices is Latihan, moving in the unknown. I learned it 21 years ago, and it's been my main practice. Just put on a blindfold, put on music, and move with no prescribed steps. Just move. And if I have my partner, my lover there in the room, we say, okay, we're going to move. We're not going to try to find each other. We'll make an intention to connect, but maybe we will, maybe we won't. And an hour will pass and maybe we connected and maybe we didn't connect. We want, two noodle type people going around in the unknown. Like not.
The noodle, is that like the movement, like moving in
Yeah, the
soft ways?
movement is like, yeah, you only move when inspiration to move moves you. So you don't do a dance step or a yoga posture. You just hang out in the sound, in the nothing. It's like moving in the void. I always think it's like moving in the void. It's like you hang out in the nothing until something moves you. It could be your elbow, it could be your leg, it could be your nose. I mean, something moves you. And the thing is to be blindfolded so you're not like looking around. It's not visual. It's just inner guidance moving you to move. And so what I think is I'm there right now. That's where I am. It's like every day I open, people send me these videos about this, that, and the other. I can't tell whether it's a coup of the whole world, like something underneath it, some profit motive under the whole world, has like got us to collaboratively lock ourselves up. Like, how did that happen? How did that happen? And now what? Or this thing is really that scary. It's really that life-threatening. Now, I already know 4 people who have had it. And have recovered. I was on a phone with a friend yesterday who I haven't seen for a really long time. And these 2 people met in one of my classes years ago. And she said, I just have this for 5 weeks. She said, I've had pressure on my chest. And I just, I'm taking this and I'm taking that. And she's taken some things that I would have recommended. And her partner says to me right away, she doesn't have it. And I say, actually, she sounds like she does have it. And she says, yeah, that's what I think. And she says, I'm doing okay. She says, I'm taking zinc, I'm taking this. And I said to her, you sound terrific. She says, I'm not at all scared. I notice that sometimes I have pressure on my chest, like I've never had before. So I don't know. I have a few people who've said to me, I have it. And then this one yesterday says to me, I don't think I have it. I think I have it, but my partner doesn't. Like he's in total denial. And I don't know, I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to make of it. What next? What's going to happen? Are we all going to rebel? Are people going to go into the streets? Is it going to be dangerous? Someone I know said, they couldn't be on a seminar I was doing because her husband had to go out that day and buy a gun. Like, Dane, we're living in a question mark. And so to me, it's like Laurie Hahn. It's the unknown of the unknown. Now, if I didn't have a house, if I had nowhere to live, if I didn't have money for food, if I didn't have, the things that were essential, like I wouldn't be laughing about it. It's not a laughing matter. Like, I don't know what I would do. I don't really know what I would do. So I don't know. I'm just like, holy shit.
That's such a refreshing, I love that was your answer, because that's where I'm coming to. Like, me and Mia have been doing our journey with, little bits of government and scientific information, little bits of friend information from friends in Europe, friends in the US, gathering just human, okay, what's happening, and little bits of more of the out there stuff. I even tried to watch the David Icke interview, but I just couldn't do it. I just got annoyed with him. And it wasn't the information, it was actually, I felt just a lack of presence and clarity, So for me, I'm not so much about, I don't get too caught up on, is this true? Is that true? What I feel is, what my deepest sense is like all these narratives have elements of truth in them, and like, and that it can be both, you know, like Bill Gates can be simultaneously trying to save the world whilst also it being the truth that he's going to fuck up a whole bunch of people or can lead to a bunch of control or whatever. Like it's what I really am getting to practice is, you know, I just like to sit inside the perspective of the person. And like, I feel that a lot of people don't do that. So they've got some beef with some politician or some president or some prime minister or whatever. And they just kind of go off at this person and just in the projection, and they don't seem to sit in like, okay, if I was in that chair and that job dealing with these kind of people in this kind of situation, I'd probably fucking make everyone stay at home if I could, you know, like, you know, whatever it is, you know, whatever the piece is. But
Right.
all I come to is that like, no one person can actually know, you know, not even people with high access to like scientific data or whatever, you know, they might have a certain overview or whatever, but, you know, we've been looking a lot astrologically at what's going on, and it's like, oh, this shit was gonna happen this year. This shit was like, you know, this Saturn and Pluto stuff of like death of the structures and the authorities and all this stuff. And it's, for me, I'm just trying to allow things to unfold, you know, and similar to yourself, like I'm in an awesome position. Like I'm looking at, you know, my office here, I'm just looking out in the window over the rolling hills of kind of Byron Bay and the mountains and stuff and the ocean. And that way it's like, I've got it pretty good, even though I get annoyed with staying at home some days.
Right.
Actually, this is what I do a lot of the time anyway, you know, like, and what I'm actually really fascinated by is, I guess, seeing as this fear of death, fear of infection, fear of control stuff moves through, that then brings out all of people's kind of little hidden narratives and patterns that they've got going on. And it's almost like kind of an acid test for where are people at internally, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know, this big challenge event happens and it just reveals what's inside. And so some people are in panic, you know, but it's almost like the most entrepreneurial people I know, they're hustling. The most paranoid people I know, they're sharing conspiracy theories. The most health-oriented people I know are doing their workout in the sun and getting their vitamins. And it's just like, it's just revealing more than anything,
Yeah,
I think.
it is. You just described me. I mean, we built a gym in my backyard and we work out every single morning. I got a tan. I mean, I'm just like, and the pool's going to be ready to swim in another week. And I'm going to swim laps and I'm going to do my TRX bands and I'm going to do my thing. And at the same, and I'm going to take all my supplements. Like I called I already ordered a bunch. I have so much stuff just in case. And I had to get some hormones and everything. And I was like panicking. I said to my physician, I got to get these prescriptions filled. Let's go. Because a lot of this stuff is made in China. So who knew what was going to happen there? But I'm not piling on the conspiracy theories. I'm just waiting to see. Like, I was shocked. I'm just going to say, I was shocked when I heard that Denmark passed a law that everybody has to be vaccinated and there's no vaccine. Like that, I'm just like, are you kidding me? What are you, stupid? Like, there is not, how can you pass a law that everybody has to have something that there isn't something? What is Big Pharma going to come up with that's a hoax? You know, so I looked at that. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's just like me in shock going like, are you crazy? Yeah. You know, my whole life came to a halt. I mean, my life is on the road like almost 24/7. And I'm sitting here going like, okay, great. I just put the first course online. I put the second course online. I'm putting a third course online. I'm doing, you know, I just didn't even blink. I just went, okay, that was a back burner item. Put it on. Bring it. It was shocking. We were supposed to be in Israel. Michael and I were supposed to be in Israel offering extraordinary lovers. And I tried to keep the Israelis enrolled. I said, okay, we're going to do it online. We're going to do it like, you know, we'll wake up at 1 a.m. to do it on your time, And only one remained. And
Wow.
he said, I'm doing it with you no matter what. I'm doing it. And then it turned out we had 3 Israelis, but I said to him, well, let's open it up to Europe and the East Coast of the United States. That way, you know, will trawl, you know, like there'll be a net. And we had 22 people from 7 countries participate with us in a weekend event. I woke up every day at 5 a.m. That is not my time to get up, but I could adapt. Because if we started at 6, it would be 9 a.m. East Coast US, and who knows what time it was in Israel and the UK and Germany and whatever, but people were on from there. And we had this spectacular weekend event online, and I hired somebody who was a great tech person. He knew how to do like chat rooms and do all these things. I don't know how to do that, but that's what other people are for. And he was only so thrilled to do it, to have work and to be in the course that we were teaching. So we're doing it again, you know, and I'm going to teach Tantra meets BDSM online in a few weeks with Om Rupani. And like, you know, half of that thing is to tie the person up. How are you going to tie up somebody that's over there on a screen? But we're going to give our hearts, we're going to give our guts to what people wanted before all this.
Yeah.
And what may save them after all this, like their humanity. Our humanity is what's going to save us. It's not our beliefs.
Yeah.
You know, you could quote me on that. I never said that before, but that's like, I heard that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Our humanity is going to... My microphone's just got weird. Can you hear me? Okay.
You're good again. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My microphone just by itself. That's why. Hold on. I'm plugging something in. That's why I don't always trust technology. It does what it wants sometimes. This is how the robot from 2001 Space Odyssey changing my microphones.
Totally. I think it's, you know, by the end of this year, we're all going to be so much more digitally competent.
We are.
Yeah. So I'm getting a bit of echo at your end.
Yeah, because it keeps telling me that my microphones are changing. Stop it. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. Is there anything else you want to touch on, Laurie? Is there anything? I feel like we had a good little transmission. Is there any other pieces that you want to bring up or that you want to?
Can I give something away to people who listen to this? You know, I talked about moving in the unknown, and I have a Laurie Han thing that I can give people if they want it.
Totally. Awesome. Yeah.
So what I talked about, not the sex magic, but the Laurie Han, moving in the unknown, which is what I think everybody needs right now. If I were to prescribe a pill, I would prescribe that people need to relax into the unknown. Like put on a blindfold, do a moving meditation every day, which doesn't call for anything you already know. It just calls for you to move as movement moves you. So if you go to lauriehandlers.com/unknown, you can receive that. You can receive my instruction of how to do Laurie Han. And Laurie Han, by the way, it's spelled Latihan, Latihan. But I'm from New York, so T's become D. So
Nice. And you've got a podcast as well, right?
I have a podcast, which I would love for you to come on. My podcast is called Sex and Happiness. I've been broadcasting for 12 years. My show used to be called Tantra Cafe, but I got really bored with Tantra. Like if one more person came on my show and said they love eye gazing, like I was going to throw up. So I changed the name to Sex and Happiness, and it became so easy. Like, whereas when I started teaching Tantra, people would say, well, what do you do? And I would say, well, I teach Tantra. And they would go, what's that? And then I would try to explain that it was like sexual yoga. Is it really, you know, what? I teach a kind of breathing. So when I started to call myself a sex and happiness coach, which is only in the last like 6-7 years, people go, oh, I get that. Tantra still is baffling to people. They think it's like esoteric Kama Sutra sex postures. And it isn't that. It's like really breath, sound, and movement, and a way of being that enables you to expand. So, but I didn't know how to say that back then. So I would say, I remember sitting at a bar and a guy saying to me, "What do you do?" And I'd say, "I teach a kind of yoga." And then he would say, "Like what?" I'd say, "Well," he said, "Well, like yoga, like sun salutations and, down dog." And I said, "No, not that."
Like cock salutations and doggy style.
I said, "It has to do with breath, sound, and movement." He said, "Like what kind of sounds?" I said, "Like ooh, ah, ooh, ah." Anyway, my world has changed since then, but we're back to, I think we're back to essentials, and I feel like this is forcing people to go inside and come up with their inner strength. So I think that offering Latihan to people, which is why I am, will help people like come to grips with their inner chemistry, their inner geography, their inner self, and build some backbone on instead of fear mongering and anxiety mongering. I feel like going in and moving in the unknown will give people that adventure, that inner adventure that they need to actually face this outer adventure. So that's
Amazing.
it. Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Yeah, love to come on your show. I'll wrap this one up now, and people,
Okay.
if you're feeling Laurie, check out her podcast and go and get the guided Latihan.
Yeah, Laurie Handlers.
It's a meditation, really, yeah?
It's what?
It's a moving meditation, really, hey?
It's a moving meditation or a chaotic meditation. I like it when it has, very ethereal music, like void music. But some people like it to be like banging, rocking drums and different things. I'll give a plug to someone. You've heard of this guy, I think. Mose. He lives in Guatemala, and he puts together all these soundtracks. His music on Patreon is a very good music to do Latihan to. It's great music to make love to. It has no previous associations like Barry White. And anyway, if you go to lauriehandlers.com/unknown, you will get, I think I'll pronounce it the Australian way or the New Zealand way. I think it's unknown.
Unknown.
You will find some instruction in Latihan, and then you could take it and use it to do it with anything. So
amazing. Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you, Dane. What a pleasure. Thank you. Much love.